Welcome to the debate. So take a look at your birth certificate. We usually treat that piece of paper as this absolute, undeniable reality, right? Like the state's guarantee of exactly who you are.
Right, and where you came from.
Exactly. But for two specific groups, I mean, the queer community and adoptees, that piece of paper isn't just a simple historical record. It's a battleground.
Yeah, a highly contested one.
Right. So today, we're looking at a pretty provocative premise from our source text. What does it actually mean to call adoption the, quote, inversion of queer truth, specifically regarding sovereignty, identity, and legislative rights? I'll be arguing that adoption and queer liberation actually share fundamental ideological ground by, rejecting biological determinism.
And I'll be taking the stance that adoption structurally inverts that queer truth. Rather than being an act of liberation, adoption operates as this state-mandated identity reassignment.
Right, but wait, if you're listening, you might think, well, both groups use the concept of chosen family, so aren't they doing the exact same thing?
I mean, superficially, maybe.
Well, for decades, the queer community has championed this idea that love, not blood, makes a family. And adoption operates on that exact same premise, doesn't it? It argues biology doesn't define the limits of who someone can be.
But you have to look at the actual mechanics of how that identity is formed. I mean, queer identity is fundamentally about fighting to exist without permission, right? It's about claiming who you are against systems that deny it.
Right, pushing back against the state.
Exactly. But adoption does the exact opposite. It legally severs a person's origins to demand an administrative straitjacket. It isn't identity formation born of resistance.
Okay, but
It's identity reassignment imposed by the state. You're handed a document that insists this is who you are now, regardless of reality.
well, let's look at the intention behind that legal mechanism, though. Because in adoption, there's this legal construct called as if born to.
Right, the legal fiction.
Yeah, the state literally seals the original birth certificate forever and issues a new one listing the adoptive parents as if they physically gave birth. You could argue this legal erasure is actually a fierce, albeit flawed, protective measure.
Protective for who, though?
For the newly formed family. Isn't that structurally similar to how queer chosen families historically had to insulate themselves, like from biological families who rejected them?
I see the parallel you're drawing, but the difference there is autonomy. A protective boundary built from the ground up by autonomous adults is, well, it's not the same as a legal fiction dropped from the top down onto a child.
Even if the goal is the same, shielding the family from interference?
The as-if-born-to construct isn't a boundary chosen by the individual. It's a state-sanctioned fiction requiring lifelong compliance. Queer liberation dismantles imposed identities, while adoption enforces one.
Okay, but if both groups are navigating identity under heavy societal surveillance, how do we reconcile their shared experience of moving past biology? I mean, the shared rejection of biological constraints has to unify them somehow.
It's actually a matter of destiny versus history. So queerness challenges biology as destiny. It expands the self, right?
Yeah, by saying biology doesn't dictate your future.
Exactly. But adoption policy dictates that biology must be erased as history. It collapses the self into something administratively acceptable so that the new identity can hold. They aren't the same move. One expands and the other flattens.
But if adoption is fundamentally about erasing history, like you say, then why do both communities lean so heavily on the exact same cultural rhetoric? Adoptees and queer people both use the phrase, love makes a family. Is that shared language just completely hollow to you?
It's not hollow, but it dangerously masks a structural reality.
How so?
Well, queer chosen family emerges organically from exclusion and survival. Adoptive family, on the other hand, is frequently built on state-enabled separation. When adoption borrows that LGBTQ phrase, it creates a smokescreen.
Ah, so hiding the mechanics of it.
Right. By framing the transfer of a child strictly as an act of love and destiny, society doesn't have to look at the actual mechanism, the thousands of dollars changing hands, or the economic distress of the biological family. It moralizes a transaction.
I concede there is a profound difference in the economic and state mechanics there. But, we still find a strong convergence in the lived reality. Both groups know exactly what it's like to be misunderstood.
Oh, absolutely.
They both have to constantly translate their existence just to make sense to the rest of society.
They do share that heavy burden of translation, yeah. But the critical divergence is sovereignty. One group is fighting to be seen exactly as they are, demanding the right to define themselves.
While the other is legally required to live as who they're told they are.
Precisely. They have to petition the state just to recover what was taken from them before they even had the language to resist it.
Which brings us right back to the core tension of the source text. Are we expanding what family means, or are we just helping the state enforce a new set of rules? Both groups live misrecognized, yet the trajectory of their sovereignty is totally different.
And that trajectory answers the question. One fights for the right to exist, the other petitions to uncover what was legally erased.
It really forces us to look closer at who benefits when we collapse these two narratives. So next time you look at a passport or a birth certificate, ask yourself, is this document recording a truth or is it enforcing one?